I'm Jason Hartz, and this is the 2 Minutes of Guts podcast with Regional Sales Director Jonathan Holloman. Jonathan Holloman, are you ready to tap into your 2 minutes of guts?
I am ready, Jason Hartz.
All right. So my guest has been working in pharmaceutical sales for 21 years and is currently a regional sales director for Alexion Pharmaceuticals. He got his start in sales at Pfizer and has also worked at Regeneron. He has a passion for leadership, team cohesion, and sales skill development. Jonathan Holloman, welcome to 2 Minutes of Guts.
Thank you.
Where to begin? I guess I should let the audience in on how did we actually meet? Do you remember?
Whoa. Don't go telling them too much now. There's some stories there.
All right. Well, first of all, how long have we known each other? Let's start there.
Wow. So I've been in the industry for 21 years. That's when I moved up to Maine. And I met the Hartz boys 3 years later. So I think it's been 18 years now, Jason. Can you believe that?
18 years. You came to my wedding.
Yes.
That's right. And my goodness. And we've had an interesting relationship over those many years. We've taken lots of trips to Las Vegas. And we've got a trip coming up that's going to be. I'm looking forward to our golf trip. It's going to be a great time, and looking forward to beating you as always.
I'm going low. That's all I gotta say.
All right. So, Jonathan, I did give an explanation, or I gave your introduction, but why don't you tell folks what you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, I'll be remiss if I didn't say, Jason, if I heard you right, this is also going to be the last one, last podcast of this season. So
it could be, although we might mess with the order a little bit. So,
all right.
But yeah, you're probably going to be the last.
All right. Well, if you're going to mess with the order, make sure I'm either first or last. I mean, like, you either start with the best or end with the best. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there.
We'll close you out.
All right. All right. But no, once again, I'm absolutely honored to be on your podcast. As you said before, we've known each other for a while. Spent a lot of time together, especially in Vegas. But with all the fun times, we have a lot of serious conversations, though, that a lot of the stuff that we talk about is the stuff that we'll talk about today. So I'm honored that we have this forum to get together and share this kind of stuff that we talk about to help motivate each other, right? So as you introduced me, I'm a regional sales director with Alexion. What that pretty much means, I lead a elite group of rare disease account managers who educate and also sell as well to physicians on ultra rare diseases. One in particular is called atypical hemolytic uremic syndrome. Say that back to me 5 times fast if you can.
Atypical hemolytic yeah. Go ahead.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. I think that was the exact way I said it the first time, but we call it atypical HUS, right? To make it short and simple. But the reason why this is like truly important, there are over 1 million rare diseases, and that's just a guess. There are probably a lot more, but we only know about 10% of them. And then roughly less than 10% actually have a treatment or a cure that are assessed to them. So with these patients, because they're not your run-of-the-mill patients that come in, they're not you and me, right? So with these patients, they usually go 10 years without even a diagnosis, right? So our job is really to help physicians, recognize these patients when they see them, 2, get them treated or cured, and then also help these patients get back to living a normal, healthy quality of life. So our job in a nutshell is really just to cut down that time of diagnosis. So this makes it, super fun and adventurous and a lot of highs and lows. And I think that's the beauty of what we do. And the reason why people within my industry normally go into rare diseases and then oncology as well is just because you really treat it as a consultant within that overall healthcare space.
Mm-hmm. Now, I really wanted to get you on this podcast because you have a particular set of skills that I think our listeners should sit up in their chairs for
Oh,
or listen to.
can you tell me about this? Because
Well,
I don't.
you're in a particularly highly regulated industry when it comes to prospecting,
Sure.
wining and dining,
Yeah.
right? These are doctors. These are, back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, it was a completely different type of sale. It
Yeah.
was, let's fly you to Miami, doctor, and let's have a great time and play 37 holes of golf or 27, whatever it's going to be. And you could almost not pay to play, right?
Yeah.
But you could, those trips and the benefits would go a long way with doctors for you to be able to prescribe your particular medication.
Sure.
And those days changed. And maybe you even got into the industry when some of those types of trips and dinners could still occur.
Hmm.
Uh, but what fascinates me about your job, amongst many things, is how do you how do you prospect now? And
Hmm.
how do you coach your sellers to get into these offices?
Yeah, I mean, Jason, you bring up an excellent point, right? When I first started 21 years ago as a pharmaceutical sales rep in Augusta, Maine, or more or less Central Maine, let's just say I had 400 physicians, and I could access 300 of those physicians out of the 400. Now, if one of my representatives has 400 physicians, they can probably only access 100, right? Just because, to your point, times have changed. The government and just the industry has cracked down on itself. A lot of things that we used to be able to do just to open up the opportunity to have these conversations with physicians, it's just not there anymore just because of the scrutiny that we've gone through. So the how is really reasons why the representatives even get hired, right? Because you have to be thinking outside of the box, but still playing within the guidelines, within the rules that we play with. So when I'm recruiting talent, I'm looking for people who have just that je ne sais quoi, just something about them that makes them unique. Having those guts, I think this podcast is uniquely named and appropriately named, just because in sales you got to have some guts, you got to have some grit, right? You got to have some determination. One of my first managers told me, he was like, "Hey, 90% of the job is just showing up every day. If you show up every day, right, like you will automatically separate yourself from everyone else." So that's one of the first things I look for, is like having those guts. I think how we break through those walls is, I think Abraham Lincoln said it the best. He said, and you probably know this one, you probably used it 1,000 times in your sales trainings, but if I had 6 hours to cut down a tree, I would spend 4 hours just sharpening my axe, right? So that pre-call plan is huge, right? Like I encourage my people, get on LinkedIn. Most doctors run their practices like businesses now. So they're on LinkedIn, right? They're telling you about their history. Go on the hospital or the account site. They're telling you about what's important to them, what metrics that they're trying to hit. They're giving you a debrief of their backgrounds and where they've been and where they studied and what they're passionate about. And then once you're actually able to gather all that information, in sales, we're trying to like find that common link so we can build that connection, use that to build that trust, and then sell upon that. So those are a couple of the big things that I highly recommend and coach to when trying to gain access in not easy situations, especially in
Yeah,
comparison to what they used to be.
because the days of being able to walk even into an office, to reception,
Yeah,
when you're wheeling in that big, that mini suitcase full of
yeah,
samples,
yeah.
those days are over,
Those
right?
days are gone. Those days are gone. Yeah,
And so I know that some of the sellers I work with really struggle, even on LinkedIn, to get responses.
yeah,
And so with so many different types of drug companies
yeah.
reaching out to doctors with like you said, a million different reasons
Yeah,
to reach
yeah,
out to them. Not to mention if they're running the business, then their HVAC on their roof broke too. So
yeah,
you've got you've got so many different people trying
yeah.
to reach these prospects. Uh, Other than, I see you went to Kenyon, or I went to Brown too,
Yeah.
or that's a great fish. What else do you arm your team with? What else do you recommend they do to not necessarily messaging, but like in terms of perhaps a cadence,
Mhm.
or what are they bringing to the attention of the doctors or their prospect that others just don't do, because you've been very successful with your team?
Yeah, I would say just if I could just pick out one thing, and there's probably many that people could do. It's really when you're getting the opportunity, and let's face it, in this particular space, the opportunity starts with the front desk. And we have the luxury of being in ultra rare diseases. So the tool or the resource that I tend to go to or coach to is, how are you building that pain, right?
Mhm.
How are you expressing that want or that need for that provider to want to see you? And you first have to start with that at the front desk, right? Something as simple as, hi, Sam, or, Becky Sue, who's ever working the front desk that day. I'm Jonathan Holloman. I'm a representative with, Alexion Pharmaceuticals, and I have this ultra rare disease product. And I guarantee, if I say this particular disease, you've never heard of it. But unfortunately, you guys are seeing these patients on an everyday basis. And also, unfortunately, it takes 10 years for these patients to even be diagnosed. We know that these patients are here, but my job is to educate the physicians on the importance of recognizing these patients and getting these patients
Yeah.
treated fast.
So you really don't even start with product, and this is something we were discussing earlier,
Yeah.
which is you really are focused on the solution, and these doctors being able to recognize when these patients are in front of them, and almost uh, secondary is your product because you're looking to help folks.
Yeah, and you know what? I think in any other pharmaceutical biotech space, especially if it's very much more primary care driven, you have the brand name of the product that could possibly get you in. But in the ultra rare disease space, a lot of people don't even know the product. Or even, I'll say this, the B part of that is that when you even get to the product, that's the easy part. The
Mm,
tough part, like I said, is from the first point that the patient knows that, hey, something's funny. Like, I don't feel normal anymore, right? And they go in to see a physician. That takes 10 years. So our job really is to help the physicians gain that awareness. And by the time they have the point where they say, hey, we feel comfortable that it's this right here, the product is the easy part to do.
mm. So let's pivot to three core pillars, or three legs of the stool, that I've mentioned in all of my podcasts,
Oh, I'm writing this
which
down. Let's
which
go.
is, oh, get ready, because uh, yeah, you should. We're going to get on our trip to Vegas. We're going to get tattoos with the following: confidence, timing, and experience.
All right.
Confidence, timing, and experience.
Yep.
Prior to the to the to this recording, in our discussions, we had talked about that 50-hour work week, 2 minutes of guts to close business. Within those 2 minutes, confidence, timing, and experience somehow rears its head,
Yeah.
and rears its head at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's subconsciously, or you have to do 50 push-ups prior to whatever you're doing to get jacked up
Yeah.
for a sale, which I used to do not 50, I can't do 50, but 50 push-ups. But
If you need to.
I would literally take a moment and say, there's a sale waiting for me in my office, and I needed to collect my thoughts. And so when you're coaching your directs and you're on the road, I would imagine at different stages in their career, those three pillars, confidence, timing, and experience, need to be worked on
Mhm.
with them. So let's start with some of them. When you're, because you mentioned to me you're on the road quite often. You're
Sure.
doing ride-alongs with your team. Out of confidence, timing, and experience, where would you say you're spending most of your time coaching your team these days?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. Let me ask you this, Jason. I hate asking a question with a question, but something like timing and experience, right? Confidence is easy palatable, right? But when you say timing and experience, like give me a little bit more there so I can make sure I'm hitting.
Yeah, sure. So timing is when to be able to recognize that it's time to up and elevate.
Yeah,
Timing is reading the tea leaves in the situation in the room
yeah,
where you push for a meeting or you don't, or you ask for the business, or this person just is not, we are not vibing.
yeah, yeah,
That's a lot of timing. And an experience is being able, I suppose, to seize on that recognition and
yeah,
the experience of trying not to make the same mistake twice in sales. Like I've
yeah,
made a gazillion
yeah,
mistakes in sales, and you try not to make the same one over and over again.
yeah, yeah.
And that's the experience aspect.
Sure, sure.
Does
Yes.
that help?
That helps, and I love that, right? I love all three of those. So it was is the question like to rank those three or just a timing that
No, I just basically, if let's say you've had a rep that you're sitting in the car or you're in the hospital and
yeah,
they go, all right, I'm going in. And
yeah,
then they come out and they're either dejected or they're like, it didn't go as
yeah,
I had hoped, or the consultation didn't go. Where do you suppose maybe, or think of an example of a team member
yeah,
that you had to
yeah.
coach on one of those three pillars?
Confidence is the biggest one, right? Because I look at it as timing is out of our hands, especially with rare disease patients, because like for us, the timing aspect of it, they may have seen the patient, but they still didn't recognize it. So the timing is always going to be off.
Yeah.
Our sales year, our sales process is probably about a year for the time that you educate them to the time that they'll actually see a patient. Because once again, we're talking about, one out of a million when it comes to atypical HUS patients. So timing we can't control. The confidence piece, man, like that's the one, right? Because what we're trying to do is really create that positive tension because a lot of these physicians don't even believe that they're actually seeing these patients. So in going in, to your point, the 50 push-ups
Oh, yeah.
is really like is a mental 50 push-ups, like psyching yourself up to have those difficult conversations to create that positive tension, but in a respectful way where you can call them out and say like, hey, like I know you feel like you haven't been seeing these patients, but I just want to help you better realize or understand what these patients actually look like so that you
Yeah.
actually like come to the conclusion that you have seen these
Well,
patients.
let's put a pin in that and
Yeah.
discuss this topic because this is universal
All right.
in sales, which is it would happen when I owned my fitness studios. I'd have someone sitting in front of me and they'd be like, I think I'm gonna think it over. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if you can, I don't wait too long
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer you're going to be here
Yeah.
unless you start taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's an art form in itself, which
Sure.
is getting a prospect to even not admit that there's something wrong, but that there's a disconnect
Yeah. Yeah.
in their environment
Yeah.
or a disconnect that is and these patients or people go through life with, I just thought that's the way you typically feel. And it's like, no, you've had Lyme disease for 7 years. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, no wonder I fall asleep in my soup. Like
Yeah.
it's that in itself is is that's very difficult to do, but that's the tough, like anybody that comes to you on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 is this is a critical must fix.
Mhm.
Timing is involved in those because
Yeah.
the planets align. It's like, well, that's the easiest sale I ever made.
Yeah.
But it's the other ones that are a little bit farther down, the fours and the fives, who have been dealing with a pebble in their shoe for years. And they're just like, I just thought that's the way the shoe fit,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, that's a good point because so we don't get the patient interactions, right? There's to your point earlier, there's some hard guidelines that stop us from talking to the patient, so we can't talk to the patients. So the doctor, more or less, is like our middleman, right? Who's you know obviously their job is to evaluate the holistic patient, but when they feel like they're close, they have to do enough to draw the symptoms out of the patients because, like when we go to the doctor, especially as men, we don't give up a lot, right? So it's a lot of good questions that bring that stuff out. But when it comes to kind of what you're talking about, like how do you motivate that change of habit, if you will? Am I going down the right road with this?
Yeah, but without being pushy,
Yeah, sure.
right?
So
And saying to perhaps a patient like, "Ooh, you look a little green today."
yeah,
You know what I mean? As
yeah,
opposed to,
yeah,
how do you feel?
yeah, yeah.
Right,
No,
right.
so no, great question. So I look at it as one of those things where there's a reason why, like doctors want patients to get better, right? That's the reason why they got into it. They have a passion for the patient. But secondarily, the way that the healthcare system has changed, they're also incentivized, right, to to do certain things, right? It could be patient satisfactory scores. It could be readmission, patients being readmitted to the hospital for the same thing, right? So doctors, when they get together, they have these meetings about certain outcomes that they have, right? So our job, right, and this is more of cross-functional partners. This is why I believe that teamwork of utilization of resources that we have internally is so important to approach this physician holistically, right? So our job is to figure out what outcomes and metrics that they have, and then tie our sales message to that so that they can be, for lack of better words, incentivized to further reach out to these patients and also recognize these patients on a daily basis, because just saying like, hey, you got these patients in your office is not enough.
Sure.
But to tie it into what's important to them and how it can actually help them is where we tend to see our most bang for our buck. And that's just not my salespeople, but that's them then bringing in their cross-functional partners to then have those conversations that can elevate that can help the physician have the need and the want and the desire to now start looking for these patients to help them hit their goals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and part of that, the difficulty of all of the tasks that are required during a 50-hour work week,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like all of that.
yeah.
Um,
But
let's
if
yeah.
I could though, I would say this also goes back to, if there's one thing that I preach to my people within the sales process, right? There's a pre-call plan, there's the actual execution of the plan, and then there's a follow-up, like the post-close. I think the most important thing, the most impactful thing that you can do, the foundation of it all, is that pre-call plan. Because if you
Yeah.
prepared yourself to know certain things like that, right? Like what is actually important to the physician, then that's just going to help make your message that much tighter and your
Yeah.
execution that much tighter, that
Yeah.
everything else just flows.
It's amazing how all of these different industries boil down, but the industries, but the sales, what you just described,
Mm-hmm.
is again, it's a universal law. Is your messaging needs to be tight.
Yeah.
It needs to be rehearsed.
Yeah.
You could start off scripted and then you be rehearsed. The script will set you free.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's part of your 50 hours. That's the due diligence that's
Yeah.
required to be successful. It's the lift, it's the pre-work. Yes, sir.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I got sales movies that I always love, right? The ones that get me pumped up when
Give me one. Give me one.
I'll give you three. I'll give you three. So when I was in my sales, when I was actually selling, these are, certain parts I would go to in these movies. I already know which one you're thinking.
Go ahead.
The original, right? Glenn Glary, Glenn Ross.
Sure.
I mean, right? I mean, that's one of the best.
Sure, that's on Mount Rushmore right there, but keep
It has
going.
to be.
Yeah.
And then I would say the next evolution of that was Boiler Room.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. It's a good one.
The latest one that I love, Wolf of Wall Street. And while you were talking, the one scene where he's on the phone and he's selling them, and all these they were selling the penny stocks.
That's right.
And all these other guys are just in awe and amazement. And then what did he do? They're like, how did you do that? And he wrote them that script, and they got really good at it. And what I like to call this is like the pancake theory. I stole this from Simon Sinek. Simon, if you're listening, I'm giving you all the credit here, right?
Oh, believe me, he's listening.
He's listening, right? No, but the pancake theory is when you're making pancakes, the first one never turns out right. It's you burn it, or it's a little bit too gooey, it's small, or it's way too big, right? There's something wrong with the first pancake. But normally when you get to the second, the third one, and they just progressively get better. So I urge my team, I'm like, when you're pre-call planning, get the first pancake out. Don't go in hot to these conversations, right? Practice in your car. If you know you're running late, practice while you're driving. Shut your talk radio off, turn off your phone, stop talking to your friends. Go over that message in your head so you can get that first pancake out. And then you're working on the second, third time, and you're making this your own.
Oh, yeah. Same with cold calls.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Same with cold calls. Get them out. Get it out. And there are some folks out there, I don't know how you feel about your team leaving, and here we are talking tactics about voicemails. I feel that there are some folks who are like, I don't leave a message. I want to catch them. And it's like, they're not picking up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So why not deliver your voicemail, leave a thumbprint, and get your messaging out, get your pitch down on all those voicemails, because eventually people are going to call you back. Now, obviously, it's 7 to 12 touches and to generate a call back or any type of action from the prospect typically, but there are cadences out there that I've been that obviously I'm coaching folks where we're seeing success with the fourth and fifth message.
Yeah.
Because of the story that they're leaving over a period of time, as opposed to just repeating the same message and like, hey, I left you a message last Thursday and 3 emails, just checking in to see if you got them. That passes, for prospecting a lot of the time. And, we just want to dial in. There's an evolution of your message. It's not only that one shot. You can't bag an elephant with a spitball. You gotta keep, you just keep going and leaving more valued statements and bringing more value to the table.
Love that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jonathan. Now let's pivot. I had this one written down, and how do you craft or how do you coach your sellers to overcome objections, full well knowing that they're walking into hostile territory?
Yeah.
Meaning they're walking into an office that might, I didn't see the no soliciting sign. My apologies.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? What's your adage, or maybe perhaps a rule that you coach to, and maybe involves timing or coaching, confidence, timing, or experience. But like I said, what you do is a lost art form, which many people don't do. How do you coach to overcome those objections?
Yeah. So out of the 3 core pillars, right? I mean, confidence definitely comes into play on that one, but experience, right? You have to be used to be told no. It's got to be comfortable. where you don't look at it as a no. It's just like you're getting stuff out of the way that gets you closer to the yes, right?
So you're a believer in the sale doesn't begin until the prospect says no.
One of the many lessons that you taught me, right? I mean, if somebody's yesing you so much, something's wrong. Like
Right.
nothing's ever been that perfect, right? Like I've had some goal products. I mean, Lipitor, I've sold Viagra, I've sold Zithromax. I mean, these are all just products where it's just like you just walk in and you're the man. But still, even that, it was a challenge yet, you know, a lot of the times, right? So my big thing, and it really comes down to just really, if I were just to pick one thing, right, it would be listening, because you really got to hear what somebody's saying in their objection. You could hear, you could think you'd be hearing one thing, but it's actually another. And I think what a lot of salespeople do, they already got something rehearsed in their head and they're a direction that they want to go once they hear one thing, right? Within, if there's 3 minutes of somebody complaining about something or giving you an objection, within the first 30 seconds, the salesperson, because they're not listening, they heard you, but they weren't listening, they already got their response down pat and they're just waiting on you to shut up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you talked about that and we talk about pauses. Uh, it wasn't Simon Sinek, and I don't even know where I heard it, but I think I had written it down particularly about this because there's no question, Jonathan. Look, let's go ahead and smile. I mean, look at that. That's the $1 million smile. The charisma.
Yeah.
Charisma is about being able to pause.
Yeah.
Like what this person said was, you know, not everybody has charisma.
All right.
And one way to get charisma is to be able to take pauses
Mm-hmm.
and give thought,
Yeah.
or even, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
your ability, and that's tied to listening too, and being empathetic, and and so anyway, I don't know. I just you reminded me of that conversation about listening, pausing,
Yeah.
taking it in, and then obviously responding with something in kind without pushing your objection too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that
Your not your objection, your the word I'm looking for, your
your
agenda,
response to,
your agenda.
yeah, your agenda. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you know, once again, in that pre-call plan, right? This is a two-edged sword about pre-call planning. We go in with an agenda, right? What's the old Mike Tyson quote?
Until you get punched in the face.
Exactly. And a lot of the times, you know, my what I try to coach my representatives to is just like, listen, like you prepare for what you know, but then you also have to prepare for the unknown as well. And there's some basic directions that people are going to go. Don't just prepare for one, prepare for them all.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like to coach, you know, too, because like, you know, our big time to showcase products, our skill sets, you know, disease state knowledge education is through lunches. Normally you got 60 minutes during a lunch. How much time do they normally get? 5. Like 1 out of 10 times you're actually getting like a full 30 or something like that, right?
Sure.
So I'm like, hey, let's prepare more for 5 than 30. So I like to say let's have a min presentation, one where it's just 5 minutes, and then let's have a max presentation, one where you're going to get all the time in the world. So that way you're not caught off guard.
Well, that's a whole other episode, is managing the clock.
I'm happy to do that for you too.
Okay.
I'm just serious.
I know.
No.
Managing the clock.
Yeah.
You've got that's a whole other conversation about mismanagement of time and spending too much time in a particular uh, part of the conversation without eyeballing. Like, I've got to start to wrap this up and pivot to next steps and
Yeah.
setting a firm future commitment. To to what could happen or should happen next, if they're open to it, that is.
Yeah.
So let's pivot to a question, and I want you to talk to me about, because every time I talk to you, everything's phenomenal. It's fantastic. I mean, if the audience only knew the lifestyle that you lead, and yeah, I'll call in whatever part of the world you're in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But tell me about. I'm going to ask you two questions, probably to sum things up. Tell me about a crushing blow in your career where you questioned if you were even in the right business and how you overcame it. And I don't even know if it's even occurred.
Yeah, no, it has multiple times. So the first time I actually interviewed for a promotion was with Pfizer, and there was a lot about going for a promotion that I did not understand at that point. Just because you yourself has identified yourself through all the confidence building that you do in order to go for a promotion, right? You got to hype yourself up. I'm the person that they need. You're telling yourself all these things, but there's a process, right? And I just had one of my representatives kind of go through this, and I was telling him, I said, listen, like the first time you go for a job, you're probably not going to get it because somebody has already been in line waiting for this job, right? And a lot of people want to say it's political and all this stuff like that. But I think you really have to be doing a lot of things right. And the one big piece a lot of people miss out on is that networking piece. And that was the one piece that I didn't necessarily have. My network wasn't strong. My skill sets were strong. My lay of the land was strong, but I didn't know enough people outside of my space to actually make the calls on my behalf.
But that's, I'm going to hold on a minute. That's political.
That's political, but that's also letting people know your desire to be in the position. And I also think it's a box that I didn't check that the other candidate did who ended up getting the job.
Fair enough.
And they had everything I had plus that.
Got it.
So there are boxes that need to be checked that I was totally unaware of that I didn't have checked. And it was a crushing blow because once again, I thought I did everything right. And there's not a lot of people when you're getting feedback, that's not something that's going to come up. Right?
Never.
That your network wasn't strong enough. Who's going to say that to you?
Right.
Right. They'll give you some other like BS,
but they might not even realize it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that was something that I had to go through multiple times before I figured it out, before I had another leader coach me. It was like, hey, you're doing this, this, and this, but not enough people know you. So now I had to start being intentional about building my network and making sure that everything else was tight as well. So crushing blow, because once again, I mean, this was like, I ended up getting promoted, but then this happened to me again. I didn't get promoted. Once again, it was network. Nobody told me. Went for another job again. I didn't get it because of my network. Right. So it was a crushing blow that kept on happening. And I didn't have the awareness to know this until much later on in my career. Thank God it happened because now I know it now and I can coach to it. Sure. Outside of what everyone else is looking for.
Right.
Make sure this is tight because not a lot of people will coach you on that.
Right. Interesting. Thank you for that. Never knew that in all the years I've known you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Last question.
Say it ain't so.
It's all over, buddy.
God.
It's all over. We're going to have to have you back.
All right. Please.
Give me a story that shifted everything for you. An inspirational story that you were willing to do what others weren't willing to do that furthered your career. Give me 2 minutes of guts that changed your life, and I'll be quiet there. And if you got one.
Yeah, I like that. So all right, here's one, the first one that comes to mind. So when I was back with Pfizer, You go through all this training. It was super intense. It was the best training I've ever gone through, because like when you left, you knew so much, but you didn't know it until you were challenged, and you just spit out stuff like like a fire hose. All this information, all this great information came out. But the last part of your training was a year and a half into working with Pfizer, and it was called Phase 6. Now, it was known with this regional manager that I had, the bottom person would get fired. Right? So it didn't matter how well the bottom person still could have did well, but the bottom person could get fired. So the pressure's on, right? We had to do 2 presentations, one on just like your territory, nail that. The other one was like on disease state information. And I'm doing my whole presentation. I feel ready, it's going great. And then the regional manager asked me a question of something that I just didn't know. And I remember getting some coaching, and it was like, if you don't know something, just say you don't know, and you'll find out. And so he asked me this question, didn't know. I said, I'm really sorry. I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find out by tomorrow and let you know. So that whole night, I'm researching, figuring this whole thing out. And it's not just figuring it out. I wanted to know everything that came before that, during that, and after that, so I could sell it to him that, hey, not only I know this thing, I can sell this thing, right? Like I got it, right? So showed up to the office, 6 a.m., waited on him to come into this office. There, he's like, all right, come in, spill it all out. And he's like, great job. Now he's like, I want to give you a little feedback. He's like, the thought around you is that you're all sizzle, no steak. And like, that was a blow, right?
It's a compliment, but again, it's about that charisma. Is this guy all charisma, or what's underneath, right?
Yeah. And the fact that, and I think he was asking me that to see if I had substance, if I had foundation of knowledge and clinical awareness, right, to go along with this salesman's ability, right? And that one question almost like exposed me. Now, that wasn't the case. I knew a lot of other stuff or whatever like that. But I said to myself, I never want to be known as that guy again, right? So from then on out, I would even say it was less sizzle and a lot more steak. I changed my whole approach to sales, where it wasn't this charismatic guy. It was more of a serious guy when I'm in these sales situations, asking the right questions and making sure that I come across as very much competent, which helped me in the long run, because this was when I was living in Maine and I got promoted down to Boston, calling on the most clinical of the clinical, MGH stands for Man's Greatest Hospital. They call themselves this because they feel like they're the smartest people in the room, right? So the fact that I was challenged and then pushed myself, put me in a weird spot, made me work a little bit harder, took a hard shot, but it was one of those things where I needed that in order to really accelerate my career.
Well, that's phenomenal. And again, didn't know that until this very moment. All those 8. What do we talk about on the golf course? We have got to start to change our tune.
Less cigars and more serious talk, I guess. Huh?
Yeah. I suppose. Well, thank you, Jonathan. Is there any place, or are you plugging anything? Is there anything? You certainly don't want to share your Instagram account, so we can't do that.
No, listen. I'll give 2 plugs. The first one is this, and it's something where I know you got a lot of, listen, it doesn't matter if you're young in sales, if you've been doing it for 20 years like myself, or you're on your last 5 years of it. I think there's always something to learn. And one of the things that's really stuck with me and kind of helped me just really establish a connection is I learned in first day of Pfizer sales training. The sales trainer gets up and he's like, I'm going to start you guys off with this. I think the first and most important thing that I'm going to tell you as far as establishing a connection, here's the major rule. And I'm sitting at the edge of my seat now. Like he's got me engaged, right? And he's like, everyone has a sign around their neck. And that sign says, make me feel important. right? And if you can do that, right, you can connect with anyone. And this is outside of sales, right? This is, spousal relationships. This is with your kids. This is with, random people that you're just talking to when throwing the dice at a craps table, right? If you can address that sign around their neck, if you can make them feel important, you can connect with anyone. So there's no plug for, anything, but there is a plug for anyone listening. If you haven't heard that, or even if you have, and you just want to get better at connecting, for me, that's been just like life-changing and something that I learned first day of, sales training, and that I still teach up until today. You got a problem with connecting, you're probably not making that person feel important, right? My plug though, would be, second thing would be your book. I hate to sound cheesy, but like, listen, man, I read the book. I was motivated. It gave the foundational principles that
What's the name of that book, by the way?
Oh, I think it's the Hearts Method. Okay. I think so. But no, amazing book, man. I don't know if you get enough credit in that space for what you did and what you put out there and the unique perspective that you had. And I love the correlation, more or less the metaphor to, being a stand-up comedian in sales. I mean, there are a lot of parallels within that space. And it's something that a lot of the skill sets that you talked about in the book is like stuff that was great for me. Reinforced a lot of things, the things that I coach with my team as well. So that would be my plug. If you don't have the Hearts Method, you're missing out.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I'll have to buy that round of golf in Vegas. Thank you so much.
That was my reason for saying it.
I know. All right, my man. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you for part 2 at some point. You were a phenomenal guest. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Jason, for having me.
Subscribe to 2 Minutes of Guts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Hearts Method, and go to theheartsmethod.com. Thank you for listening.